Several communities in the Lejokuku-Kruwa municipality were flooded during Thursday's rainfall. Some areas were totally cut off from residents who were stuck in their homes.
At Sangwena, the river which separates Nungua and Teshi had overflown its banks. Fence walls tumbled, resulting in homes getting flooded. At A-Life Estate, a few meters from the Lekma offices, the storm drain had overflown, blocking the access road. Residents blame the floods on indiscriminate dumping of refuse in gutters and the river.
We are suffering because we lack gutters here.
This is where we had our dustbin 7 years ago. It was taken away and never returned. At night, people come around in cars loaded with dustbins full of rubbish. They dump it here, and if you confront them, it turns into a scuffle.
The Lejokuku-Kruwa Municipal Chief Executive, Seth Baduteria, however, blamed the floods on a heavy downpour at Ibri, adding that running water from the mountainous area was too much for the narrow gutters constructed in his municipality.
Our gutters, our drains are very small. We cannot contain what is coming. So when you go around Cocoa Beach, around even greater estates and everything, even cars are not able to pass. People will complain that they don't have dustbins and these things. They are telling a lie. Now we are on PPP projects. We want to give every house a dustbin so that the cars will come out and pick them. People are not ready to receive.
From Nungua to Kaneshi, where Thursday's downpour caused heavy vehicular traffic near the Kaneshi market, bringing business activities to a standstill. The entire Kaneshi stretch was flooded, making the road unmotorable.
Dozens of vehicles were partly submerged in the flood waters, bringing the business center to a standstill. Hawkers and commuters who usually flanked the edges of the Kaneshi streets were missing following the torrential rains. Large parts of the Kaneshi road were impassable, causing heavy vehicular traffic. Two amateur cameramen, David Doche and Kwame Otu, who filmed, said several other vehicles were completely submerged.
And very soon we'll be touching base with our presidential correspondent, Edward Kwabi, who's with the president, who is touring some of the worst affected places yesterday. And the National Disaster Management Organization, of course, is in the news once disaster hit. And we understand that over 10,000 people have been displaced by the rains nationwide. But the National Disaster Management Organization says it has no tents to provide shelter for victims. It only has blankets, bed nets, plates and cups.
Perennial flooding has become an annual ritual in Accra and other parts of the country. Thousands of Ghanaians lose their properties. Some lives are lost in extreme cases. The National Disaster Management Organization, which is mandated to provide relief items to flood victims, is handicapped. Not even tents to provide shelter for victims.
Our challenge has been to provide safety and security for the displaced persons and also to offer them some relief. Our real challenge this year has also been the fact that we don't have tents at all. So we have relied on the hospitality of neighbors, community leaders, churches, to provide some accommodation for them. In fact, the schools where we even normally would have sheltered them have lost their roofs in many cases.
The national coordinator, Kofi Potofi, did not mince words. City authorities have failed to enforce the law when it comes to building on waterways.
If you go to the Malam Junction, which is becoming very proverbial, because the bad engineering works at the Malam Junction, every 1 hour rain provides some flooding in the backflow, floods people who are living around the junction area. 300-400 people are displaced. We don't have the law supporting us to carry out demolitions. It's a new law that is creating room now, which hasn't gone through Parliament yet.
That notwithstanding, he called on the entire citizenry to cooperate with NADMO in times of crisis.
Our emergency number is 0302 772926. And quickly our ops room will react. We have various teams ready. We are full of action. We want to assure residents in Accra that we are not sleeping. We are all over the place.
And that's the national coordinator of the National Disaster Management Organization, Kofi Potivi there. I mean, pretty much appealing to Ghanaians, well, to want to watch how we behave generally, putting plastic in our bins, disposing them of anyhow, and when the rains come, we're completely exposed. That's not all. Also, NADMO is handicapped. We have nothing really to give displaced victims. We have in the studio Sarah Adinku to tell us more about what has, I mean, for after today, what happens next. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. And you're the director of Hydromet.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Hydromet is a short form of hydrometeorological disasters. Disasters that deals with weather-related elements like rainfalls, floods, droughts, landslides, tidal waves, anything that deals with weather and causes problem or disaster is hydrometeorological.
All right. Have you had the opportunity to visit the areas? At least we have seen Kaneshi, Nungwa, I believe, is it Domi?
Yeah, Domi,
all those
Silawa,
areas. Have you been able to visit these areas and tell us more about the level of devastation?
Yes, NADMO has structures in place for these whole disasters. And during the disasters, we have the operations department taking charge of the issues. Like yesterday, for example, the operations, they were all over the place. The places like Man, Teshinwa, Domi, Pilatu. I myself went to Buzia, Odoko, and this morning we were at Malam Junction. The operations were at the Malam Junction. This morning
I want to know, so what's the level of devastation? I mean, we saw pictures. I mean, people's homes have been completely submerged.
Now,
have we recorded accidents?
Yes. Unfortunately, we lost one person so far. That's what we know. And one person is missing. They found his car at Sakumono, but they didn't find him. So that's what we know for losing lives. For structure-wise, we'll say that some walls are broken here and there. Yes, those things are there. And the personal effects of people, yes. But so far, the devastation, one would say it's a bit minimized. And apart from preventing people from going out of their houses and all that. But for today, you know, Accra, we experience what we call flash flooding. Now, when it descends from the Aburi and it rains so much, and our drains are not wide enough to contain it, so it runs into people's homes. But for some few hours, it just moves out into the sea, sort of. Okay.
All right.
So,
and what we are seeing now is that NADMO, well, every year we experience, we have just two weather really. We don't have the winter, the spring, the summer. We just have two. Yeah. So we know when the rains will come.
Yeah.
And every year we experience this, and we have NADMO say, we don't have this, we don't have that. Does that mean government is doing absolutely nothing?
You know, NADMO, part of NADMO's work is to give relief, but part is also to prepare, coordinate all the stakeholders to do their work. For example, this Malam Junction that we are mentioning, we met this year with them to see to it that we don't experience flooding. So now, the problem is an engineering problem, a huge problem, which should have been tackled before the road was constructed. It was not it was not tackled. It was not included in the plan, you know. So for now, we've met and we have plans in place, designs in place for that problem to be tackled. The construction of the Malam Total filling station is part, but part two has to do with not having a proper culvert to take the water under the road into the sea.
So what do we do?
So what do we do? Now Malam Total Management is ready to help do part of their work, part of the construction.
Because they don't want to be moved? Because, I mean, clearly they are there. When you get to Malam Junction, that's where their business is.
Yes. So they are ready
to move or to invest. They want to stay there.
Yeah. To invest money for the road to be, the drainage to be widened under the road to that place. That is the stage where we are now with them.
All right. So now, after today, what happens next? Because we know people are building in flood-prone areas. Mr. Kofi possibly did mention that we don't have laws that covers demolition, and so when you want to demolish people's buildings, it becomes another problem. So what? So we don't come next year and give us the same excuses?
Yes. You know, we have started. I said earlier on that we have structures in place. Now it's not that most place to go and demolish. We can advise the assemblies demolish these buildings so that it doesn't cause problem. Like, for example, the Odoko Busia Junction. The whole problem there is that one single person is holding the whole area to ransom. Why? Because when the drain was being constructed, they wanted to pass the drain through the house so that they can cover it. He said no. He went and placed injunction on the government construction right now. So for so many years, the injunction is on the construction. So now we are going to meet this month to tackle. I just spoke with the mayor. We went to the site with the mayor so that all
right, thank you. But with what we're experiencing, what happens? You're saying you have only blankets,
yes, we have only blankets,
tents. So what happens to victims?
Tents we don't have. But fortunately, those people who are displaced, who were displaced yesterday, some of them have gradually settling.
All right.
You know.
Okay, so thank you very much,
you're welcome.
Madam, for joining us in our studios. And that's the Director of Hydro National Disaster Management Organization. The meetings will continue, but we'll see some action. Send us your thoughts via our social media platforms at News on TV3 for Twitter, News on TV3 for Facebook, or go to our website at tv3network.com. But the flooding is not over, because we understand that day Kotopon Municipal Assembly has earmarked some buildings at the La Chado community to be demolished soon. The structures have been sited on waterways, resulting in flooding after the recent downpour. The municipal chief executive and some officers from the assembly toured the areas. They warned developers to stop work immediately. Already, the assembly had marked several of the buildings for permits to be produced. It says it would demolish the buildings if owners fail to comply with the law. I mean, before you go, I mean, this is a fantastic idea from the municipal assembly, but you would have a situation where you pull them off, the media will go and cover them, people are crying, dying. What happens?
Condemning the government for pulling down. I think that we have to be much more proactive somehow, that when the time that we should do demolish is this time that people will appreciate the efforts that government is doing to alleviate other people from the adverse effects of flooding. So when it is raining and we identify structure 1 and 2, we move and pull it down if we can.
Absolutely.
At that time.
All right, thank you very much.